And they say a hero will save us. Watch as they all fly away. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies with special guest Tim Davis. This is the podcast where all three of us went and saw a movie at two different theaters, both Regal. And now we're convening afterwards to talk about it, give our gut reactions in the parking lot in Matt's Honda Pilot. We're going to talk about such things as, should you see this movie? Should you not see this movie? Should you snack during this movie? Should you hold off? Should you wait for streaming? We're going to try to get all those things nailed down, or maybe we won't. I don't know. I am Todd Dover.
And I'm Matt Malloy. And yes, Tim is with us again. And we, due to a series of unfortunate communications, went and saw this movie at two different theaters.
It's okay.
Todd and Tim were in Columbia.
Yeah, luckily they were at the same time.
Yeah,
it really worked out, actually.
I was in Laurel. So,
well, it was a nice theater.
But you know, we made it. We're here back. We're all in Columbia now at the at our local Regal Cinema Theater, and we're going to talk about the movie we saw tonight, which is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So the follow-up to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And so Tim, tell us who's in this of note.
Well, as it being a very well animated movie, we have a lot of voice actors, and a lot of them are returning from the first one. Shameik Moore is back as Miles Morales, our main Spider-Man. Hailee Steinfeld, who's been in lots of stuff, True Grit, she's MCU Hawkeye. Kate Bishop, she's also in Bumblebee. Brian Tyree Henry plays Miles' dad. He's been in Eternals. He's been in Bullet Train. Jake Johnson is back as Peter B. Parker. He was in the first one as well. And then some newer voices. Jason Schwartzman shows up as the Spot, who is one of the villains in this movie. Jason Schwartzman's been in a ton of stuff. He was in Election back in the day. He was in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Daniel Kaluuya is in this as he's who did he play?
I don't
know. He
You
played
just
Spider-Punk,
said
a punk rock version of Spider-Man. And Oscar Isaac is Miguel O'Hara, otherwise known as Spider-Man 2099, who is basically one of the main, I don't know, say antagonist, but drives the story forward from his mission, which I'm sure Matt will get to.
Fair enough.
Yeah, cool. So there are many Spider-Men and Spider-Women and Spider-People and Spider-Animals in this movie. Like a lot.
Yeah.
So what is this movie about? Well, it kind of focuses on a few of the Spider people. It focuses a little bit on, and this movie, if you're not familiar with the first movie,
this one needs.
You should brush up, but there are multiple universes here, so you know this is right alongside with like Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, that kind of concept where
his name dropped at one point.
Yes, to good effect, I thought. So you've got these different worlds, different Earths, we could call them. And so a lot of the story is flipping between different worlds. But the basic idea is that every world has a Spider-Man, and a lot of the same characters and events take place, although could be a different culture, could be different names, could be different characters taking on different roles from names that you know, stuff like that. So we've got Gwen Stacy, who is in the first one. The movie opens with her and kind of exploring her relationship with her dad in her universe. And then close that chapter. She goes off into the multiverse and is joining up with a bunch of other people who are kind of trying to hold things together in the multiverse and not let things degenerate. So Next chapter, we go and focus back on Miles Morales and see how he's doing with his parents and his family and his life, and how he's doing in Brooklyn as Spider-Man. And we get that whole story. And then there's a what seems to be at first just a run-of-the-mill supervillain called The Spot.
The Spot. Yeah.
The Spot. Who we get a lot of backstory on, which I won't go into, but basically he becomes kind of the big bad, and finds his way of how to move between different universes in the multiverse. So then Gwen Stacy and her crew kind of are interested in tracking this guy the Spot, and they come to Miles Morales' universe, and of course she stops by to say hello since they're old friends, and eventually Spot gets away. Like I said, he's moving through different universes with a mission of getting more powerful, and so Gwen Stacy leaves this universe, and Miles Morales decides to follow her, jumping through a portal at the last minute kind of deal. And then the rest of the movie is lots of spider people doing stuff and trying to not let the multiverse unravel. And we see Miles Morales kind of they want to kind of control him, and he's not wanting to be controlled, and he's trying to figure out a way to get home, basically. And I think that's good enough for a non-spoilerish summary. So, Todd, we'll go to you. Please share your gut reaction at this time for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Here comes my gut reaction right now.
It comes.
I liked this movie. I want to put that out there to begin with. I liked it. I thought it was very similar to the first one as far as like jokes and animation and stuff like that. I mean, so all the stuff that you like really liked about the first one, if you liked the first one, is here. I liked that this movie seemed to be a little bit deeper, like in the sense of there's a lot of kind of identity and who you are and you know your effect in the world and stuff like that. And there's some good culture representation in this movie that I enjoyed. All that stuff I really enjoyed, and I thought, once again, the fighting sequences are amazing. This animation style is so weird to me, but it works for me. I know it doesn't work for everyone, but
it's unique.
Yeah, I mean, so I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed all the little Easter eggs that I could pick up, but you know, there's so many that we obviously missed probably a ton. My only kind of biggest drawback, I think, is that the first movie kind of hovered around this idea of Miles might not supposed to be Spider-Man, and this movie picks that up and runs with it again. And I don't know, I think I wanted something different in that story. I mean, they add to it, and so it's not the same, but it still centers around this general idea of Miles is not supposed to be Spider-Man. And, you know, I just felt like that was a little too on the nose from the first movie. And also, and this is not this movie's fault, I'm getting burnt out on this multiverse thing. And I know that that's funny to say about this movie because it's the first movie that set all these things in motion of why we're seeing all this multiverse stuff. I mean, like, they had this idea and it was a huge hit and stuff like that. So now we had, you know, No Way Home and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, and even comics nowadays are all about the multiverse. It's just like, I'm getting a little multiverse played out, I think is my biggest critique. And I understand that's like just my thought about it. Like, But I think if you liked the first one or even were just slightly entertained by it, this is following suit. I think a lot of people will like this movie. I think it's a pretty good follow-up to the first movie. I think I like the first movie more just because it felt so original and everything, and it was great. And this movie is not bad. Like I said, I like this movie, but as far as like it just didn't really touch the first one in my opinion. But I think people who see this will enjoy it. I think it's somewhat appropriate for kids. They put a lot more cursing in this movie than I remember in the first one. So maybe if you've got younger kids, watch out for that. I don't really know, but this is still a movie I think you can take your older kids to and stuff like that. And I think it's going to do really well. There's a good possibility I'll probably see it again in theaters before it heads out. So, yeah, it's going to get a good review for me. I mean, there are some drawbacks. We got to give our gut reactions. And so these are just the things that were like toiling around in my head. And I mean, there's other things that I didn't like, but they kind of go into spoiler stuff. So I'm just going to hold off on that. Because I don't want to, we're spoiler free here. So, but that's where I'm going to end it. If you like the first one, go see this one. If you're going to see it, you have to see it in theaters. Like, I think that's a given. Like, it's just, seeing it on the big screen is great. I mean, I enjoy watching the first one at home, but it's meant to be watched your first time on a big screen. So if you're at all remotely interested in this movie, come see it in theaters. So, that's where I'll leave it. Tim?
Yes, so I also thoroughly enjoyed this movie. There's something about these that they're so creative and different, and I guess because of the animation style, feels like a comic book come to life, but also just they can do visuals that you just can't do another way. And it's just something about it's I feel like I'm watching something new when I watch these movies, even if this one did go over some familiar ground, but I do think it expanded enough and touched on it. Like, I would almost say this movie is equal amounts of Gwen Stacy's movie as it is Miles, whereas the first movie was mostly Miles' journey. Fair. And it just, the whole thing just is visually interesting. The story moves along. Things breathe. Despite being a almost kinetic style at times, but they also let big moments breathe and story beats move, and you get nice tender moments with the parents. You get, there's a big scene when all the Spider-Men are talking where they all kind of, and this isn't spoilers, where they all kind of realize like that they all have to go through something to become a spider person, and that scene I thought was really powerful too. And it's just there's clever writing, like the jokes aren't just, they don't feel thrown in. They're naturally part of the scene, or they're really sharp and smart, and sometimes you miss them because they say them so quickly, and sometimes they're jokes that are fleeting in the background because they're swinging along and other things are going on, and the whole thing is a visual feast and audio feast of just creativity and dynamic visuals, and it's just I can't praise the style enough. Yes, I know not everybody loves it, but I just think there's something about it that just it keeps your eye on the screen and you're just captivated the whole time.
Sure.
And all the voice acting I thought was great. Like, everybody fit their roles. I mean, to the point where, like I said, I'm looking up the cast list and going, oh, that's who that was. Oh, that's who that was. Because I'm so into the characters. I'm not thinking of, that's that person's voice. And to me, that's also the good sign of a really good story and cartoon where you're not distracted by who's doing the voice. Mm-hmm. And there's some fun, like you said, fun cameos, Easter eggs, little bits here and there, and just the creative different Spider-Men and Spider-People is just interesting to see. And some references to some of the other movies, some of the other forms that Spider-Man's been in over the years, and it's all just something that you want to see again, like you said, where I feel like there's scenes where you could just hit the pause button and catch all these other things you didn't catch on the big screen.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a movie theater movie, and then you can enjoy it more at home. So I highly recommend it. I agree with you that it's not as great as the first one, but that's not a knock. It is still pretty great and a definite companion piece. And this isn't really a spoiler, but it definitely sets up a part 3, and I will be there for that. Matt?
Well, I kind of have a unique perspective in that I didn't like the first movie very much at all.
I did not know that.
You're who I was thinking about when I said not everyone liked
Oh,
it.
I didn't realize you didn't.
Did we? We didn't review this movie on the podcast, right?
I don't think
I
we
don't
did.
believe
We
you guys
saw it
did.
together.
Yeah,
right?
I think
But
it
we
was just a
didn't.
little before we started.
Okay.
All right, so yes.
So anyway, my biggest problem with the first movie was that I thought the animation style was really jarring. I didn't like it at all. And so coming into this movie, I was really convinced that I wasn't going to like this movie. I was like,
At least you knew what you were getting.
and I knew what I was getting, and I was like, but it's a 2.5-hour movie, and I'm just going to suffer through and whatever. And either they made the animation less jarring than the first movie, or I'm just used to it now, and it was not as big of a problem as it was for me the first time. I thought this movie was great.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I can't really think of any, I still don't love the animation style, but other than that, which they're not going to change that.
No.
Yeah.
They're not going to change that for me. I thought that the story was fantastic. I thought that the all the little notes and pieces and nods to other things in both the Spider-Verse, the larger Spider-Verse, and in fact to the larger Marvel world, I thought was really, really fascinating and fun. Another concern I had was that I haven't seen the first one since it was out in theaters, and
Years ago.
I didn't since I didn't like it, I never watched it again. And I didn't really have the story in mind, and I was like, oh gosh, is this going to be all these like references to things that are like I have to remember from the first one, or they're different spider people that I need to know from the comics that I'm just going to miss stuff? No, don't worry about any of that. You don't need to. It's not going to be a problem when you watch this movie. I was pleasantly surprised again with that. So, like I said, I think this movie is great. You definitely should see it. If you didn't like the first one, watch this one. If you did like the first one, for sure, watch this one. I will say that I definitely liked it better, and I think it's a better movie, personally, than the first movie. So that is what I'll say about that.
All right.
Fair enough. Well, getting down to business here, how many vampiric Spider-Man would you give this movie? 0 being the worst, because then you don't have a vampiric Spider-Man to save the day. What are you doing? You're just hanging out.
Right.
5 being the best, because then you got a team, and everyone likes a team.
Right.
And you could field an indoor soccer team with that amount of
is true.
people.
That's right.
So, let's start with Matt.
Yes.
What do you feel here?
Well, I'm a big fan of vampires and vampiric Spider-Man, and I'm gonna give this movie a hefty dose of them, and I'm gonna say 4.5 vampiric
Nice.
Spider-Man out of
Nice.
5.
Highest rating in a while.
I was thinking about it, and I was like, is that too high for this movie? And then I tried to think about things that I didn't like about
that was
the
your
movie.
gut reaction?
And there weren't very many
Yeah.
that I
Okay.
didn't like, and the things that I didn't like were very minor. So we're gonna hit it pretty hard with a 4.5, and I'm gonna encourage you to go see this movie in theaters and later on streaming, so you can pause it and watch with subtitles, so you get all the accent all the accent words. So that's what I'll say. 4.5.
Good stuff. Tim?
I am also in that high range. I too like my vampiric Spider-Man, and hope to see more of them. So I will put this at a 4.1. I don't know what I would have rated the first one. The first one was just so inventive and visual. I think it would be more, but not much more. But I'll put this one at a 4.1.
Nice. Yeah, I'm not too far off. This is a good movie. I enjoyed myself. Like, I think most people will enjoy this. I'm not sure. I don't see a scenario where too many people are like, I hate it. It's over. I'm out of here.
Right.
So, I'm going to land on a 4.0. Excuse me. I enjoyed myself. It was a great escape from life at this point. And
it did not feel like 2.5 hours.
It really didn't. I mean, only near like the very end was I like, man, how long have we been going here? And then it kind of ends, and I was like, whoa, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you're a comic book fan, if you're a movie fan, if you were a fan of the first one, I don't see many reasons, really any reasons why you shouldn't see this movie.
But you don't even have to be that, I would argue.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you could
It's
you
just
could
a visually
be
fun
yeah
movie.
yeah. You could have hate the first one apparently and go see this one. So yeah, I mean, this movie deserves the high marks it gets. I think I'm only gonna like it more the more I view it. So that's where I'm at.
All right.
There it
Pretty
is.
strong.
Okay. Well, any last thoughts before we wrap this puppy up? Or this spider up? Or the spider puppy up?
I just hope part 3 isn't like as many years away as this one was from part 1.
Yes, that's my fear. Like that's what walking out of the theater.
Clearly set this up
I was
as-
like, I don't want to
meant to
wait
be a
4
two-part.
years for the next one.
Yes.
Considering how they end this one.
This
Like,
one is definitely a cliffhanger.
right.
Yeah.
This is an Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
I
Oh,
was
good call.
just
good call.
thinking
Good
that.
call.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. I mean, hopefully we don't have to wait long. And I'll say one thing I really enjoyed about the movie. I don't know if this is just the comic nerd inside of me, but I appreciated when they dropped words in the movie.
Yes,
That
that
they
was
knew
fun.
no one was going to understand. They would put a little text
comic
box, like a
comic
little
style box
yeah,
on the quiz.
explaining the word that they said and what it means. And I
thought those-
appreciated that.
And they
Like,
were,
that's
sometimes
just,
they were jokes, sometimes
Right.
they were serious, sometimes it was just it was.
that's just the cleverness of this movie, I feel.
Yeah.
That's Lord and Miller who wrote
Yes,
it.
yeah.
They're-
I mean,
they're-
yeah.
Lego
You pretty
movie
much
/
know what you're
21
going to
Jump
get.
Street
Yeah, you're
style,
going to know what you get from them at
They're
this point.
super clever with their stuff.
So,
Agree.
Again, good news. The Beyond the Spider-Verse is supposed to come out March of 24.
Oh, great.
so we don't have to
That's-
wait a year. It's under a
that's-
year.
That's
All right.
pretty quick.
I'll take it.
Great. We will take it. And so that will wrap up this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And we gave it a very nice, solid rating of 4.2 Vampiric Spider-Man out of 5, which is an excellent rating. I think that's number 2 for this year,
That sounds right.
just edged out by A Man Called Otto
Which was
at
a great movie as
4.3.
well.
So,
Different movie.
different movie, but also
great.
good. Yeah. So, thank you, listeners, for listening, subscribing, downloading, etc. Please continue to do those things, and we will see you next time.
Da 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 da
Da da
da da da.
da da da.